finally, the second last team in the NBA that needs to buy into the fact that mediocrity is the worst place to be. The Indiana Pacers are finally buying into a rebuild, per reports today from Shams. The tweet from Shams says, sources, the Indiana Pacers are moving towards a rebuild, receptive to a trade talks on Caris LeVert and either Domantas Sabonis or Myles Turner. So the takeaways from that are Caris LeVert, who hasn't even been on the team for much more than a year and hasn't played for more than a year due to that health concern, is now looking like he could be on his third team in a bit over a year. And they are finally committing, by the sounds of it, to moving one of their two big men. Malcolm Brogdon will not be traded, as he can't be due to his new extension. Whether that is the reason he is not being traded or they actually want to keep him through that whole extension remains to be seen. Brogdon has vocalized that he is happy in Indiana, so he may not be going anywhere. And specifically now with TJ McConnell being out for possibly the rest of the season, per a report on his injury this morning, Brogdon probably wasn't going to go anywhere anyways, because their only other point guard on the roster is Brad Wanamaker. That being said, Indiana Pacers fans, please let me know how you guys feel down in the comment section below. Because for me personally, two of the things I've felt the strongest about in the NBA over the last year or two, a bit longer for Portland than I have for Indiana, is that Portland and Indiana need to make some changes. They don't necessarily need to rebuild, but they need to make some changes because whatever they have going on doesn't work. With Indiana, even more so than Portland, it wasn't necessarily that their roster was bad, but the pieces together on this roster were not fitting. They have a lot of really good NBA players, but they don't have enough top-end talent to make them anything more than ever like a 6 or 7 seed. And obviously this year it's been way worse. They're really struggling this year at 10 and 16. But like they have some fine players, like Brogdon's a borderline all-star. Sabonis, I don't know if like he has made all-star teams, but I'd consider him a borderline all-star in terms of impact on the court. Myles Turner's a good center, not an amazing one. Caris LeVert's a good player. They have a lot of good players and a lot of solid NBA player depth, but there's nothing on this roster that makes you think they have a higher ceiling that can push towards anything amazing. It's just not something they have on this roster. And so when you're a bad team trying to make the playoffs, that's more than fine. But when you're a team like Indiana that's been stuck in the middle of the pack for so long, you lose Oladipo, unfortunately, to that injury. He never comes back the same. He gets moved. That perimeter creation and ceiling raising level of player never gets replaced. And this is just kind of where Indiana are left. So personally, I think this is the perfect move for Indiana. They need to start making some moves and changing some things to try and improve their roster. They have a lot of depth on this team. They have a lot of good players. They have a lot of assets that they can use from a player standpoint to try and either elevate their ceiling or, based on this report, looks like more so go for some future assets and start a bit more of a rebuild. It'll be interesting to see how that works, though, because if they're going to be rebuilding, they're going to be rebuilding with still one of Sabonis or Turner on the roster. I would predict still Sabonis because, personally, even though Sabonis might be the better player and has the All-Star to his name, Myles Turner probably has just as much, if not more, trade value due to the fact that Sabonis and the way he plays is tailored to being a primary focal guy on an offense. He needs the ball in his hands, lots to play make. He doesn't necessarily need to have that role, but he is a lot less impactful if he's just out there to get offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, and get some putbacks, considering the fact that his defense, although has improved this year, is still not anywhere near an above average defender at the 5. Whereas for Turner, gives you really good floor spacing, really good rim protection, and that at the 5 spot is extremely coveted. Teams like the Hornets, the Raptors, the Warriors, potentially. There'd be a lot of teams that would be interested in having someone like him. Sabonis, not so much, because Sabonis is a lead man on your offense. Well, we see it right now with the Pacers. It doesn't bring you very far. So, how that trade works, who gets traded, will be interesting to see. I expect it will be Myles Turner. That means Domantas Sabonis is still going to be around. Caris LeVert will be gone, but Malcolm Brogdon will still be around. So this team, with the amount of depth they have, depending on what they get back in their trades, won't necessarily be terrible, but they're probably not going to be a playoff team. They're still going to have the likes of Justin Holiday, TJ McConnell when he's back from injury, Chris Duarte, Torrey Craig, Keelan Martin, Hugo Pataze, Jeremy Lamb, O'Shea Brissett, Isaiah Jackson. As I mentioned, there are a lot of solid NBA players on this roster. And that's why it just makes sense for the Pacers to make some moves. They have so much depth that they just don't need. Simply put, they really just, you don't need this much depth. Like, these guys just aren't playing regularly at all. Like, O'Shea Brissett has been superly inconsistent in and out of the lineup this year, but he's been good when he's played. Guys like that should not just be sitting around not playing. So for the Pacers moving forward now, they're still going to be able to have a lot of depth. They're going to be able to retool a few pieces, try and start building towards a more competent roster that hopefully has a little bit of a higher ceiling. Whether they want to do that via acquiring picks or acquiring young assets remains to be seen. Caris LeVert should have some interest as like a third option on a contending team if there's any teams that are interested in such a trade and have the salary to do so. Someone like the Clippers could throw in Eric Bledsoe and a few things to try and get him, but I don't know if they have the pick assets to do so. There's definitely a few teams that could be interested in him. Domantas Sabonis, I think, stays with the Pacers. Myles Turner, I think, is the guy to go. Teams like the Raptors, Hornets, the Warriors, amongst a couple of others that I'm not blanking on, will definitely be interested. And I think this is ultimately the right way to go for the Pacers moving forward. With that being said, be sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I'll likely have a trade machine video come out in the next week or so on some more well thought out potential trades for the Indiana Pacers for LeVert, Sabonis, and Myles Turner. But that is my thoughts on the Indiana Pacers finally buying into moving some guys and not necessarily rebuilding as the report says, but at least retooling, and we'll see what direction they head with the trades they make. That being said, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.